We've been showing it. We've been showing it. I don't know how else to say it. We've been showing it. And you got Shaq, you got Charles, you got, I think Zach Lowe's his name. I don't even know. Stephen A. All y'all better start giving this team some damn respect because we put in the work.
For sure, starting to get some respect now. Alright, so the Denver Nuggets' entertaining and impressive run in these weird 2020 NBA playoffs has finally come to an end. But even after losing to the Lakers in 5, they showed a lot as a team. I mean, come on now, 2 3-1 deficit comebacks, with one of them against the heavily favorited LA Clippers versus someone I cannot believe I thought was the best player in the world in Kawhi. Not to mention Denver's 2 best players, Jokic and Murray, showed even more as they led the way. Specifically, Murray surprised a lot of us though. And as you can probably tell, this video is focusing on him, and in it, I'm gonna determine where I think Murray now ranks among the best of the best elite guards in the NBA today after his insane play in the bubble. But quickly, before I even move on, 2 disclaimers. First off, this video is not just recency bias, man, I hate that stuff. As you can see, I recently made a vid trying to pause the Tyler Herro and Duncan Robinson hype just a little bit, and those 2 are really good. Secondly, Rockets fans and Russell Westbrook fans, before you even send hate my way, I know the thumbnail got you mad, but it's exactly just that, a thumbnail. Actually watch the video before thinking I'm just exploiting the Russell Westbrook hate train for clout, cause I'm not. But yeah, now that's out the way, before I go further, man, if you're new, subscribe. If you think Jamal Murray will be a champion at some point in his career, sub up. I'm posting quality hoops content 2 to 3 times a week, and I'm trying to grow the channel, man. We steady growing too, so big thanks just for watching, for real. But back to the vid. So in case you were not aware, for some reason, Jamal Murray has had the biggest breakout of all players in the NBA bubble this year. And if you don't agree with this, what do you perhaps call raising your game from averaging a solid 18.5 points per game, 5 assists, 4 rebounds on 45% shooting from the field and 34% from 3 in the regular season, to a whopping 26 points per game, 6 assists, and 5 rebounds on 50% shooting from the field and 45% from 3 in the playoffs? My point exactly. Like, what Jamal Murray is doing right now is just a great example of raising your level of play for a bigger stage, which is what we expect of stars. But if we're being real, it doesn't happen as often as you might think, because playoff defenses are just better prepared to stop what teams' biggest threats do best, especially since you're playing the same team several times. Anyway though, obviously playing that well in the playoffs has to mean something. Like, whether you're a fan of his or not, he balled out in the postseason so well to the point that he passed up a good amount of elite, well-known guards that are vets in this league. But yeah, as I reveal what I think his new rank among NBA point guards to be, I'm gonna let y'all know I'm prioritizing things like winning, postseason play, of course, current ability, and even longevity somewhat. So your list might look different, and other parts of basketball matter too, of course, but not as much to me for this instance. Enough disclaimers though, let's start out with who he's not better than. Stephen Curry, just easily the #1 point guard when healthy. I don't need to explain much. He's an active legend in this league for obvious reasons, and with saying that, it's really no debate. Next though, we got Damian Lillard, and shouldn't need to say too much here either, but for those that may think otherwise, Portland suffered a good amount of injuries this year, with Dame included, and yet being just 29-37 with the 9th seed in the West prior to bubble games, he basically willed them into the playoffs with the 8th seed with amazing play late in the bubble seeding games, averaging 51 points per game over the last 3 games before the playoffs began. Like, what else can you say? No, his play versus the Lakers wasn't the greatest, but the man was injured. He couldn't even finish the series. And hey, at the end of the day, they lost in the same number of games as everyone else did, like the Rockets and the Nuggets versus the Lakers. Just 5 games. Moving on though, the 3rd point guard better than Murray is Russell Westbrook. And would you look at that, off the thumbnail, you would have thought I trashed him, and honestly, it was hard to rank him this high with his recent play, but nah, look, Russell Westbrook had a very lackluster playoffs. Everyone knows this. Just 18 points per game, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists on 42% shooting. But the man came off a quad injury in this year's playoffs, and if it was the regular season, he probably would not have even been playing. Not only that, but he also came off of COVID, if you forgot, because he did recover from it quickly. And I know it sounds like I'm just making excuses after excuses for this guy, but before this COVID stuff, his regular season play really sold me. He averaged 27, 8, and 7 on 47% shooting, boosting his points per game by 4 with a higher field goal efficiency as well, with even more shots attempted. After I remember people thinking his points per game would go down after leaving OKC because he would no longer be the #1 option. But instead, he just played well with Harden as his right-hand man. So really, it just comes down to longevity. I gotta see Murray come off this postseason and perform at a high level next year and average at least 20 points per game or more in the regular season for the first time in his career. Also, these breaks I'm giving Westbrook will not last forever, and if his career just goes downhill from here as he nears the end of his prime, then I will not be surprised that Murray passes him up sooner rather than later. But just for right now, Westbrook is above him. Next up though, I got Kyrie Irving, and I must admit I'm not a huge fan of Kyrie and his play, and his accomplishments since leaving LeBron has been nothing special at all. Plus the guy's injury prone, and we hear his leadership is a little iffy. These are all facts, but when he is playing, he can easily be the second best player on a championship team. And although he only played 20 games this year, he was on a tear, averaging 27 points per game, 6 assists, and 5 rebounds on 48% shooting from the field and 39% from 3. Then when you add in the longevity factor and needing Murray to continue balling this next season, I just gotta give Kyrie the nod. So yeah, that's 4 elite point guards better than him. But next up, I finally have Jamal Murray, meaning yes, in my opinion, he is a top 5 point guard in the NBA. And just off his postseason play, he's passed up guys like Chris Paul, Kyle Lowry, and my guy, Kemba Walker, just doing things I don't believe they could have done this year in his position. I mean, in his worst series of the playoffs, which was against the Lakers, he still averaged 25 points per game on 52% shooting, while you could tell he was beat up physically. And I don't believe in-depth explanations are really needed for this, but I'm going to touch on it anyway. Kyle Lowry, for one, great leader, solid postseason play this year, but being 34 years old and just 6 feet tall, he definitely is not trending upwards. And to me, his current ability is not up there with Murray at all. You cannot tell me that being down 3-1, taking Murray off that team and inserting Lowry, that they win that series versus the Jazz or the Clippers. There's just no way. Moving on though, with Chris Paul, nearly the same applies, except he's 35 years old with a career trending downwards as well. I have to give the man his respect. He's already an all-time point guard, just still playing, and he showed why this year, proving ESPN's oh so great and genius analysts wrong by capturing the 5th seed in the West when they were just given a 0.2% chance to make it at all. But likewise, I don't see him doing what Murray was able to do this year, which is something I cannot say for those that are ranked above him, except Westbrook kinda and maybe Kyrie, but I don't know, not ready to put him above them just yet. But finally, I got Murray above Kemba. Honestly, Kemba's rank may have been lowered by fans anyway after this year's playoffs, which is understandable. But this narrative that he played poorly all playoffs is just wild. He did have a stretch of cold games in the second round. I mean, 5 points in 50 minutes versus the Raptors. I'm a Kemba fan, but I cannot gloss over that. That is shameful. It's terrible. But it was just clear he took the backseat to Tatum and even Jaylen Brown, and deservedly so. Those two are clearly the future of the Celtics. And yes, he's an all-star, but the expectations of him to have monster performances just seemed unrealistic all throughout the playoffs, considering he was the third option. I'm losing my point though. Murray is above Kemba. Just the way he raised his level of play, being down 3-1, not even being the best player on the team, Jokic is, but he played like it at many times. I'd simply be in denial to think otherwise. So yeah, right now, Jamal Murray is the 5th best point guard in this league, and he probably gonna average about 22 to 24 points next year in the regular season. I mean, he did average 26 in 19 playoff games against straight competitive teams, so the future is bright. He's only 23, solid height for point guards at 6'4", trending upwards. Say it again, the future is bright for Denver. But yeah, that's it for me. I appreciate y'all watching. Like the sub, share it, sub if new. See y'all next vid, and I'm out.